Hello, folks. Pastor Rocky Branch. Hope you're doing well this morning. Let me ask you a question. How would you like to know the future? Now, most people have trouble with the present. Right now, it gives a lot of people a headache. But what if you knew exactly what was going to happen in your future? I mean, step by step, incident by incident. And you knew exactly what it was going to be, and it wasn't very pleasant. You knew you were going to go into a lion's den, for example, or a fiery furnace. Or perhaps a whale like Jonah. Of course, they didn't know that. But what if you knew that? What if you knew exactly what was going to happen the last week of your life, and even further back, but the last midweek of your life, you knew exactly everything that was going to happen to you until you died. Jesus knew that. Jesus knew everything that was going to happen to him. He was the God-man. And yet he stayed on track. He stayed on course. Even though he knew he was going to be deserted by his friends that he had led for 3.5 years. Even though he knew that they were going to fall asleep at critical times of his prayer life, he knew they would doubt him. He knew that they would run. He knew the Romans were coming. He knew the Sanhedrin with Caiaphas and the leadership. He knew they were coming. Yet he kept doing exactly what he was supposed to do. When Jesus came into the temple and turned over the money tables, you need to understand, I need to be reminded, that wasn't the first time Jesus had seen the money changers. He had seen them before. Every year, when from a kid, the Bible tells us from a child, Jesus went to the festival, to the Passover. Every year Jesus went. Every year a young Jewish man went. The years of Jesus' ministry, he went every year. He had seen the money changers. But this year he turned the tables over. He finally had seen enough, knowing that his time was here. It's time to make a difference. He knew. He knew when he was 12 in the early chapters of Luke. When they couldn't find him, he was back at the temple talking to the doctors and the lawyers. His parents had lost him for 3 days. He knew what was coming. But in those last days, the last week of his life, the intensity rose in his life to the degree that he was so absolutely committed to finishing the task. You know, that's what the Apostle Paul said, that he wanted to finish his course with joy. Let me ask you about that. How are you doing with your course of life? You say, now, hang on, I'm not Jesus. Well, certainly not. I'm not the Apostle Paul. No, you'd be in bad shape if you were Paul. He's very old. He's been gone a long time. We're talking about you. But we're talking about you with your commitment like they had their commitment. They driven by the same force you, if you're saved, are driven by. How is it going with your goals, your direction? You said, I don't know what tomorrow holds. No, but you know who holds tomorrow. So you have to be faithful to be pleasing to God. That's what it says in Hebrews. So I have to be reminded, my friend. I have to be reminded that God's going to take care of me. Am I going to stay on track, or am I going to let things knock me off balance? Am I going to let things knock me off track? Am I going to let things push me to the wayside? Am I going to let things get in my way? Well, those are choices. Now, the more committed you are to Christ and the readings of the Scriptures and the prayer time and your dedication and devotion, the more on track you're going to be with keeping what you should be keeping and doing what you should be doing. Even though we don't know, sometimes we know a little bit of what's coming in some degree, but even though we don't know that to its fullest, what we do know is he that hath called us is faithful. And he will not put more in your life than you're able to bear, but will with the temptation make a way of escape that you may be able to endure it. That's 1 Corinthians 10:13. And God will not put more in your life than you're able to deal with if you follow him. If you don't follow him, anything can happen. Even challenges come when you follow him, but you can tolerate them. You can deal with them if you follow him. So, if you knew what was coming, would you run? Jesus did not. Jesus stayed strong. And I'm asking you to consider, he knows your future, and he's equipped you to stand strong in this time. So would you please stand strong? Because if you do it, I believe God will bless you for it. God bless you. We love you. Goodbye.